relax your growing. Kind of goes like that. It goes kind of like that.
Oh, nice, Jarle.
Well, thanks.
This is Jarle Lillemoen.
Lillemoen, and you're
How did I do? How did I do?
You did great.
Huh?
You did great.
All right,
Dennis.
we're getting there. Jarle, what was your introduction? Now, Jarle, you grew up in Norway, correct?
I did. I was born in Norway, and
Yeah.
And I lived there, you know, like any Norwegian kid. But
Yeah.
my dad was a captain on the ocean, you know, boats.
Yeah,
And he got a job in Houston in the early 80s.
right.
And then he liked it, and he asked us, you know, me, my brother, and mom, if
Right.
we wanted to move over here.
Yeah.
We had a little family meeting. We all said, yes, let's go. And then we went. And that
And
was
so when did you arrive here?
1985.
What was that like? Looking
Right,
at the
yeah.
United States in
Yeah.
1985, how old were you?
I just turned 14 that
14,
year.
you're 14 years old.
Yeah.
You're in the United States. What
It
are you
was-
thinking about?
well,
What?
I was getting bored at the time,
Yeah.
living in Norway. It was just probably because I was 14.
Right.
It was just
Ah,
kind of
yeah.
changing.
You know how? Yeah.
Right. So we moved here, and then of course the very first thing that completely blew my mind was we were driving on these roads, and there would be a bridge, and another bridge, and a bridge, and another, 5 bridges just going like this on top of each other. And that was sort of like the beginning of it, you know, because that was
Yeah.
the first night just driving home from the airport. And then the flatness, because it was down in Houston area. In Norway, you can't go anywhere without a mountain or
Are you
something.
kidding? You're right there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so actually getting around was hard because they have no real landmarks here, unless you're in the town where you got the
Exactly.
big buildings. So that was really a big adjustment. And then of course the cultural thing, you know, teenagers starting with all the hormones. I heard you talking about
Yeah.
those.
Post-hormonal pre-adults, right? I mean,
Yeah,
here you are. The testosterone hits, and you know, testosterone is quite the drug.
It is.
It
yeah,
is.
it is.
We can look back on history and go, look at the impact of testosterone over the course, and it's very significant.
It is significant. It creates a lot of force.
Yeah.
You know, it's a force maker.
Yeah.
And,
So, were you musically inclined? You were now.
Yeah.
Not only are you, I mean, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation with you is because of the broadness of your interests. You teach science in college. You have a chemistry background, and
That's
that
right.
you've always loved that. Yet you also love music, and you have your art, and consciousness is such a big part of your vision of where you're going, of how this amalgamation is coming in. So pick an area that we'd like to talk about, and let's invest some time in having
well,
some
I mean,
conversation.
the chemistry is definitely, you know, I mean, I owe my parents that I studied chemistry because I was going to study music, and that was my out of high school. I said I'm going to study music.
That's it.
They negotiated with me. They said you can pay for it yourself, or you can study something. You can get a real job,
Yeah.
and then we'll pay for your school. And so I said, well, and then I told you know I had gotten into some psychedelics
Yep.
and stuff. And
How
so
was that
really,
consciousness? Were you able to, as I did too, and I went through and I found that like some of the teachers that I have, Ram Dass, and some of the people
Okay.
that I have studied, that there was that the psychedelic experience helped me to see that there was another level. That there was another level that was going parallel in this time. Now,
Yeah.
it's easy for us to get hooked on that level and to say, okay, I just want that experience, or
Yeah.
we can use that as a transformative of our consciousness. So what was?
So you know the thing was, you know, putting you in such a different state of mind. You know,
Right.
talking about myself, it was so different. So, you know, I'd grown up fairly conventional. You know, I was a Christian boy.
Right.
You know, I believed in Jesus, and like none of that's anything wrong with that. But it was something that happened to me they're like the whole story I've been told was, it got totally thrown on its head in a way.
Yeah.
And so in trying to figure it out, which, you know, I finally feel like, you know, I'm getting the balance of it, but it was like, I need to figure this out somehow, what happened here, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I, you know, really needed to find out what, you know, can't study music, so what do I do? Well,
Yeah.
Chemistry. Chemistry is sort of like where if there is a mind and interaction, it would have to be somehow through the chemistry. So that's why I started with
that's the thing that fascinates me about chemistry and biology and how this all works. What is this thing, this consciousness?
Yeah.
What is this thing that chemically comes together and actually becomes a consciousness?
Yeah, yeah. What is that? I mean, and so, you know, I guess now we can do the functional MRI studies. So you can kind of look at your brain, like sort of indirectly measure what it is, like where do things happen while you're thinking, but we cannot observe it directly.
I know.
And but you know, I don't know, what do I believe about that? I think consciousness is sort of embedded into everything in a way. We just happen to be organized.
Thank you.
In a way that, you know, enables us to move through the space, make a decision, lift our hand, you know. Mm-hmm. But this is about how the matter is organized within us more than exactly, you know, because a rock, you know, it probably exists on a different time scale.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, just because it doesn't, I love that, because if it only moves once every 100,000 years.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I think about this because I'm 70 years old this year, and I've changed. I'm counting days instead of years. 25,816.
Wow.
Okay. So that way I'm looking at it in a different way. But what was, before I was conceived, from the first time from when that happened, whatever it is, the universe was 14.7 billion years old. It didn't seem to me that I was bored, or whatever it was. It wasn't. It's just a fascinating process. This idea, this chemical and impact. When you look at the kids today, because you're a teacher, right?
Yes.
And you look at that. What do you see out there? What do you see out there as far as their interest? Because there is a lot of conversations about what is a millennial, or what are these kids and how are they interested? What are you seeing out there?
Well, I mean, the young people that I interact with. Yeah. First of all, I think they're really smart, and in many ways they're probably smarter than me. You know, in terms
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Now, the thing that you and I probably have on them is that we've been around a lot longer, so we've run into a lot of more things to sort of having to interact with. So we have more base to pull from the past, you know. Yeah. But the thing that I think everyone's trying to figure out, like, how has all these computers and all the internet and everything really affected our society? You know, because that's sort of the difference between us and the millennials is they have only ever known computers. They've only ever known internet.
They're digital natives.
Yeah. And we're
immigrants.
I was like, in my 20s before I started getting, I had email maybe when I was, let's say 20 years old. Sure. You know, so, but that was very new. Yeah. You know, and now it's like so integrated, and but it's not the intelligence that's lacking in the millennials, not at all.
Oh God, no! I mean, they are really. I mean, there's a lot of brilliance, but is there what I was talking about when I talk with in some of my coaching is that they don't want to be CEO first day one. What they want to do is to have purpose. Yeah. Tell me why.
Right.
Help me to understand why. And that, to me, is so powerful.
And thanks for pointing that out, because that's actually one of the things that, I haven't taught for that long. I mean, I've taught a little here and there, but it's the things like, how do I connect this thing, which happens to be organic chemistry, to your purpose, So, like, I try to, because for me, that's the most important class they take. Right. Because, that's the one I teach them.
You bet.
So I'm really trying to see, like, what is it that motivates you? Like, what gets you motivated? And is there any way I can tie that into chemistry?
Right.
You know? So for me, you know, the reason I started studying chemistry, of course, was the consciousness and that was my interest, you know.
Right.
But of course, there's a whole. If you're gonna study chemistry, you can't just look at one thing. You're gonna get the whole class, you know.
It is.
And so it's the same with them. You know, there might be only a tiny little piece of that they really are interested in, but they have to get the whole thing. And
I find it interesting because organic chemistry seems to me, as I talk to doctors and I talk to people who didn't go through medicine, and that organic chemistry is the inflection point. They're either going to make it through, or they're going to be kicked into another. This is it. This is your big test, your first big test as to whether or not you really want to do inorganic chem. Do you find that?
I believe that the organic chemistry they call it the weed out class. You know, it's where it's a formidable subject, and I still feel it's a formidable subject. You know, myself, and there's just so much, and it's still so mysterious too. Yeah. You know, it hasn't all been figured out.
Not even we're just that to me is exciting about it.
Yeah. And the explanations we have, you know, they're ideas that we come up with models to try to explain what we see, but it doesn't mean that our models are correct, you know. Yeah. So I always try to keep that in mind. And I try to get that across. You know, all these things that even everything we've been told is like, it's just the stories we've been telling ourselves. And they work, but some parts of them don't work too.
Yep.
And you have to be able to let go of a story so we can make a new story, you know.
Einstein had that problem. He couldn't let go of the idea of the quantum, that there was this uncertainty, this quantum, and he couldn't let go of the story that he had, and that was his part. I mean, that was his part of the story. And when we hold on to old stories, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we tell new stories, and how do we tell them? And do you do that with music, right? I mean, you do that.
Music has been my trusty companion, and through hard times and easy times. You know, it's something that I've been able to, because it's abstract. You know, music is this abstract thing, but it's also mathematical. You know.
Yes.
Like the harmonic relationships are, you know, integral of frequencies, you know, 1 frequency, 2 frequency, or 2 frequency. Like these are harmonic because the interrelationship is small fractions. Mm. So music has been there for me to almost like you were saying, a parallel. The psychedelics is a parallel universe.
Absolutely.
It's like a parallel universe. If you're having trouble, you could go into sort of that parallel sound universe and maybe sort some ideas out, maybe sort out some troubles, you know.
That's part of emotional healing, right? I mean, because music hits us at an emotional level. It brings us something. It brings us something. Now, you know, you were talking about the harmonics, and I was talking earlier about why, when I was growing up, harmonies just lift me. When I hear harmonies are just, what is it about? Is it musically? Is it just like a step, or what is it?
So, for example, well, chords are composed generally of what they call a triad, diatonic triad, which means that the space between them is 2.
Right.
So if you go here, play a scale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, makes a harmonic.
Oh.
And then, you know, and then of course you move from one chord to the next. So then I go from the 1 to the 4, and then to the 5.
I was looking on your Facebook page about all the pictures where you're performing, and all that you're performing on. You're performing at the place where you have a long beard and you have a short beard. Are these evolutions of Jarle as you are learning and growing into who you? I mean,
it's true. So in my younger years, I never liked the way I looked. So I was always trying to change it.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Sure.
Try something different, long hair, short hair. Finally, now I'm comfortable just being who I am. And I'm a little too lazy to shave every day. So, I try to just keep it like, and then I grew myself, to save money. So
Yeah.
I shave my hair, whatever. Yeah, it's been like that. And then, of course, sometimes too, as a performer, there was a time, with my band that I would be wearing dresses and stuff like that.
Sure.
And a part of that was just to get attention, really.
Sure.
I mean, and but it was fun too, a lot
Sure.
of fun, So, but then now I don't see myself doing that. So it's a growing thing, It's getting older. I mean, now I'm a dad, too. So like, it's not that made me. I will do anything in front of my kids,
Sure.
like. But it's just like I feel like my priorities have changed, really.
Isn't it amazing to see our priorities change over the course of our lives? To be able
Yeah.
to say, "Wow, I feel differently about that than I did before." I'm really trying to use the word "so far."
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, "I feel this way. That's the way I'm going to be, and I'm going to keep that way," because that closes me off.
Yeah, it's true. And that brings me to another thing, which is the language we use and the stories we tell ourselves.
Yes.
So we tell ourselves a certain story, and we will believe it, to a certain extent. And
Yep.
the more we tell the story, the more we believe it. So,
Yep.
so
Well,
if you
that's
say,
it.
"I feel this way," then you do feel that way, and
Yep.
then you may be impossible to change.
Yep.
But but if you are able to not hold on so tight to your ideas, then or I am not. If I am able to not hold on so tight to my ideas,
Yep.
it's actually a freeing experience.
Isn't it amazing? And I love the way that you turned. I watched you turn it from you to I. And I've been working on that so much. So, because I've realized when I was growing up, there would be these old timers that would sit around and go, "Well, I don't know about you, but da-da-da-da. Well, I don't know about you." And I realize how wise that is.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you.
No, you don't.
I have no idea of what it's like to be Jarle. That and the less I assume I know what it's like, the more I can actually be present, and the more I can be of service to myself and to the rest of humanity.
That's a good way to put it, Dennis.
You know,
Can
it's
be
what-
open to let them express themselves
Exactly. And
without having said, I mean, yeah, without you assuming what they is,
yeah, because we don't know, and we don't know, and one of the things that I love about today is the amount of diversity that I see. When I grew up, there was a real homogeneity, not just homogenized as in milk, because it was very white.
Yeah.
But everything was regimented, and everybody stayed in their place. Yet I'll look out at a field, and if you have a monoculture in a field, what happens to that field?
You get struck by disease. And then you
Right?
gotta spray lots of chemicals on it to keep it alive.
Right, that's it. I mean, you
Yeah.
really have to go to a lot. But what do you do if you put a really rich, diverse plant life and animal life into that? What happens to that soil?
The soil builds. And
How are we not the same? How is human culture not the same way? That's the way I predict.
yeah, that's a really great metaphor, we should, but we should hold on to a few things, but those other people, whoever they are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to assume, and I find myself doing it all the time,
Don't
I
we,
see
though? It's
somebody,
how
I
human
just
of
like,
us.
okay, they're so-and-so, they're
Yep.
like that. And it's just, it's a really easy thing to do. But yeah, somehow nurturing each person's innate, what's supposed to come out of them. Because, that's
How
really
wonderful.
hard, because we have, I was taught you do this. It's not like, you're supposed to get a job. We go to university, we go get
That's
a job,
right.
and then you do that. But it's not even working very well anymore
Mm-mm.
because now, the basis for this is falling apart. And, we can get into the reasons for that.
Yep.
But I mean, a lot of it has to do with monopolies being created and
Sure.
driving out small businesses. Small businesses are disappearing. People start working for the big company,
Right.
and then it just like the diversity goes away.
Exactly. So how do we re-diversify? Like you have Wild Bunch Brewing.
That's
Red
right.
Rock. All right. So this is a way of injecting diversity.
Yeah, and my own
Right.
form of diversity.
So talk about that.
Well, our Wild Bunch Brewing is a very small company. It's mainly me and my wife run it. We have
Yep.
investors that help with some money because we
Right.
can't brew beer without some equipment
Right.
and pay the rent and such. And then small is beautiful. I really believe that, and so and it's nice too because like craft beer is sort of an example of something that is diverse here in this, because there are a lot of thriving craft breweries.
Yep.
And in fact, beer sales overall are going down in our nation, but craft beer sales are going up,
Right.
because people are, at least on that level, realizing, hey, local is good,
Yep.
You can go to a local place, have a couple of beers, and they're made by the people there.
Yep.
And it's just like music culture in Austin. It's very diverse,
Yep.
And it's just, there's something living and exciting about creating things together.
Isn't it amazing? And that's where I think that if we put these little, the thing that I think about when I think about monopoly or oligarchy or that we work like that, Jarle, is that that's darkness, and it's hard to keep darkness. Because just one shard of light breaks that darkness, and when we begin to put the value in the individual, really make sure that we're connecting.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we've got an opportunity here. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm seeing that happen. I mean, look at you, just you sitting in your professorship, in teaching organic chemistry, just the perspective that you have to say, I want you to find your purpose. As you're saying exactly the same words, changes their experience just because of your willingness to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, that's certainly something I'm continuing to do, because there's still kind of the hierarchical thing about the professor and the student. Like,
Exactly.
I don't want to. Like, I guess I'm in a position of power, which
Right.
is scary. It's a scary thing. So, if you're in a vulnerable position, you don't want to necessarily reveal too much to this person of authority.
Right.
So, whereas I'm not used to being like a person of authority, I'm really used to being, just me struggling to do,
Right.
to get done, what I'm trying to get done, which is, it's just whatever I happen to be really into at the time,
How has the experience of fatherhood changed you as a human being?
Well, it has certainly given me lots of gray hairs.
Yes.
First of all,
Congratulations.
well, thank you. But it's really wonderful that there's someone who just completely adores me.
Yeah.
As much as they also constantly kind of disrespect me in their taking me for granted.
job.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. But at the same, it's just really great, and it's taught me a lot about myself. I have to say that, because that there were things that were probably just dormant in me.
Yeah.
That have come out. A lot of it's maybe out of anger and things like that. But there, I
Sure.
certainly learned a lot about myself and my hidden dark side.
Yep.
But also to balance that, just the love of those kids, is
Yeah.
great, and like my love for them is, it's a real thing.
There's so much that I found, Jarle, about what a do-over is all about being able to say, like to my wife, and to be able to say, wait a minute, what I just said was ridiculous. I just said it was such an ass. I'm being a complete ass. Please give me a chance to do it. And so we do a take two. All right, take two. Let me do that line again. Yeah. And go back again and try to say it in a more compassionate way, because I'm not every time. I'm never upset for the reason I think I am. Really? It's usually something else that's going on inside. And that's the reason why I'm reacting about that. And it teaches me so much about myself.
Yeah, and that's true, Dennis. Just the other stress, and it comes out,
Exactly.
Because it's usually not the kid so much. I mean, what they did, of course, can be aggravating, but it's the other stresses that on a stressful day I'll just be more mean. But if we can own it. Yeah.
Hey, I tanked that one. That was terrible.
Yeah, that's great.
I apologize. Not what you did was great. Not what you did was good. But there's a better way, and own our parts of it. That's the thing that I think is the difference between having it as a hierarchy. I was reading about how children who never get a chance to see their parents make up. They might see the fight or start the fight, but then they go off into another room and they work and they don't, and they come back and things are well, but they've never gotten a chance to actually be there during that negotiating process of how adults get back into rhythm, back into harmony. Like when you get into discord and get back into harmony, and to be able for them to see it is a very life-growing experience.
Yeah, I had never really thought about that, but it makes perfect sense.
How would they learn? How do they learn if they don't see it happen?
You're yelling at each other and throwing pots and pans, and all of a sudden you disappear.
Yep.
Come back, everything's fine. It's not okay.
What happened? How did that work? And because I'm really thinking that this is a time when we're going through almost a sentience 2.0. There's something really powerful about this global interconnected world, that your children we're leaving the planet.
Yeah. I mean,
this is when
physically,
humans are going to look back and go, oh my God, this is when they left the planet. This is when it happened. And we're right in the middle of it as it's going on.
Yeah, and the whole birthing process, all the mess, the pain and the bloody mess.
Yep. Because I was thinking about that when we're talking about diversity, because one of the things that one of my issues is that I recognize what white male privilege is in the United States. That I have really been given I've been given a huge advantage just because I happened to. I didn't choose.